Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone watching this podcast. Today we have a very, very special guest, a host of the Jummah Nights in the After Maghrib channel. He's a very knowledgeable person. He has videos on the books Al Kafi, Kitab Salam ibn Qais, and he has given knowledge to many people out there. We have with us brother Muhammad Ali. How are you, sir? Hi, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. Alhamdulillah, I'm well. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be speaking with you. And I think you've kind of, exaggerated a little bit with regards to myself. Of course, we're just trying to be students of knowledge, inshallah, trying to serve the community in the best way possible. Jazakumullah khairah for having me on. How are you doing, brother?
I'm good. How? So, yeah. So basically, you contribute a lot to society. Honestly, me honestly, I'm a big fan of you. I watch Jumma Nas regularly, Habibi. About the books, about everything, and inshallah Taala, you may keep doing the service for the Ahlul Bayt alayhi
Alhamdulillah.
salam.
Inshallah.
Inshallah Taala.
Ameen.
Sheikh, I would like to know about your how like when you were growing up as a youth. So how did you connect to the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam in your early years when there are so many distractions out there in your university years? What was your connection to the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam? Were you really connected to them, or you were like other teenagers at that time? So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. I think, like all other children in my community, I come from the Khoja background. So in London, Alhamdulillah, we have a community and we have madrasa. And madrasa is very, very important in all of our upbringing, in terms of giving us the basic foundations of the religion, basic kind of foundations of theology, of fiqh, of akhlaq, of Quran. All of these kinds of topics were things that were covered in madrasa. So I think there's a lot that I have to thank my parents for. Alhamdulillah, they were very kind of on it with taking me to the Quran classes, to privately taking me to madrasa, taking me to workshop in our local masjid, which is the Stanmore Hujjat Center. And Alhamdulillah, I think it was from there that we were able to get our basics and our foundations with regards to the religion. Now, in terms of knowledge, yeah, we were given those basics and those foundations. But in terms of actually having a emotional and a actual attachment to the Ahlul Bayt, to the religion, I think that came for me in my teens, more so than in my like youth before being a teen. I think when I became a teen, there was particular shuyukh in the Arabic language that I was introduced to by one of my uncles. And this uncle of mine is also a huge kind of he was a huge contributor to my religious journey because he introduced me to these Arabic speaking sheikhs on YouTube and things like that. And at that point, I think that was when I actually gained a kind of appreciation for the religion because I felt like the discussion that was being had in the Arabic language was a much higher level, right? So I was seeing the on the subtitles and trying to understand the arguments that they're making, and that really inspired me, right? It was at that point that I think, and I was like maybe 13 or 14 at the time. And I was very interested, of course, in Sunni Shia polemics, as any teenager would be, I guess. Going to high school, the Sunni people ask you, why are you like this? Why are you praying on the turba? You guys, you Shia. I heard my parents told me that you guys, you're not real Muslims, so on and so forth. So, all of these kinds of, problems and questions that you have in mind, I think that was what really kind of awoke the passion for me. And that's when I started to look into these Arabic speaking ulama, tried to actually started learning Arabic, got to know the kind of foundational sources, and then after that, Alhamdulillah. So I think that journey of becoming connected to the Ahlul Bayt, I think there's many different paths, right? I would say even before that, I had an emotional connection. So, for example, Azar is the best way I think to become connected to the Ahlul Bayt because there's such an emotional aspect and it's a collective emotional mourning, right? Everybody together you reenact or you mourn Imam al-Hussein together, right? So that kind of feeling, that community feeling was very important. And I guess you could say there's a lot of factors. And when you look back, there's not really one thing that you can kind of pinpoint to say that this was where I became kind of, acquainted with the Ahlul Bayt. There's, the upbringing of my the sheikh that I was introduced to by my uncle, the the azar. I think a contribution of all of these things, alhamdulillah, basically in the end they will give you some sort of emotional attachment to the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So that's my kind of like, experience growing up. Of course, there's a lot more to say, but that's kind of like a summarized kind of version of my events. How about yourself? How would you say
Yeah.
that you kind of like, developed your connection? You said obviously you were born in Qatar. So
Yeah.
there's I know there's a Shia community there as well, and but also it's an Arabic speaking country, right? So that I wanted to kind of find out about yourself in terms of like Urdu, and
Yeah.
Urdu majalis and that kind of thing. Like how is it there in where you grew
Okay,
up?
so my grandfather, so basically he came to Qatar in the early years when Qatar wasn't, really as it is now. So at that time they didn't even
Okay,
have like a proper community. So he you in his university times he used to give lectures and everything. So one of his friends was in Qatar. So basically in the Shia Masjid over here. Okay, so everyone were giving speeches, Urdu speeches, Arabic speeches, Farsi speeches, English speeches. So they didn't have anyone for the Urdu speech. So that friend asked my grandfather to, read a book and then give a speech about, Shiaism in Urdu, basically. So he was like, at first, he was like, he hesitated, but then he was like, okay, I'll do it. And then he went for it, and then the speech was actually really nice. So at that time, the top people in the community, they were like, we need a zakir. You should start.
mm,
And then like that, he became a zakir, and then he resided for like 20 years in Qatar slowly. And then, so I feel
mashallah,
like he himself is a big contribution towards me. Like, I remember
mashallah.
me going, so like when he finished his time in Qatar and went to India. So whenever I would go in, at my holidays time, he would tell me about Karbala. He would tell me how Imam Sallam sacrificed himself and everything. So, since growing up, I always heard stories and every single thing, by him. So that helped me a lot. Because I would hear things like how Imam Islam is literally praying while the opposition is standing in front of him. So those things which amazed me a lot, and then that contributed towards me. And as you mentioned, the Persia Aza, since we were small, we would go in the majalis and we would hear the zakirs and everyone morning, and we would we'll see that this is something that we need to understand as well. Because when we'll be small, we'll be like,
Mm,
what's going on? We don't really understand this. But as we grow up, we understand, okay, this is something which actually matters a lot. And so yeah, I feel my grandfather and my
mm.
parents upbringing, yes, it has a big contribution. So yeah,
Alhamdulillah, and that's good.
yeah, I would like to know
Okay, so
about
in your sorry, no, no, no. I want to know more. So your center that you have, is it still a mixed community? So is there still Arabic and Farsi and Urdu lectures and English, or is it now that you have kind of broken off and you're a specific Pakistani community?
Okay, no. So basically, that was a mosque, right? So afterwards, they built a Shia center. Okay, like so basically they had Urdu lectures. So Indian Pakistani community would come there, and we even have like Arabic centers over here. But then that Urdu center is not anymore because because of some reasons it got closed
Sure,
down.
sure, sure, sure. Okay,
Okay.
okay, okay. Sure. Okay, mashallah. Inshallah, it kind of, you can build that kind of community again, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah. And yeah, I would like to know about Jumma nights. Juma
Yeah.
nights, what was the story behind it? Like, how did you come up with it? And putting so much time into it.
Mm.
How did you deal with that? And the idea, how did you come with the idea mainly?
Yeah, so the thing is over the years, I have done basically a lot of, first of all, self-reading, a lot of classes and lessons with ulama, and I think over the years, I think I felt like there was a need for there to be a kind of a platform whereby in English, there could be a kind of relationship with our classical books in Shiism. So I gave this example in my actual outro episode in Jum'ah Night, that I felt like when I was growing up, especially because there's a lot of Sunni Shia polemics and stuff like that, there's a lot of Shia that they have a lot of knowledge with regards to Sunni Shia polemics. They know, for example, that this is in this book like Bukhari, or this book thing is in this book like Muslim, or this book in Tirmidhi, and they have a lot of references for things in Sunni books. So if you were to ask a normal Shia, you would say to him, which are the six books of Sunni Hadith? They would be very quickly able to tell you Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, so on and so forth. Ibn Majah, Abu Dawood, all of them, they know these names already, very familiar with them because this is the only thing that they focus on in religion. How do we respond to Sunnis, right? But I felt like in the English kind of speaking world, there was no kind of place where some youth can go and find out about Shia books. Because even on the in the Mimbar culture as well, there's a lot of kind of first of all, there's generic lectures, and there's lectures that are also a little bit like on the sectarian side as well, speaking about polemics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere actually that a Shia youth could go to understand what is my literature, what is our classical history. Because if you were to ask any Shia kind of teenager at that point, what are the four Shia books of hadith? Maybe the only one they will know is Al-Kafi. Most of the people would not have heard of Tahdib al-Ahkam. They would not have heard of Man la Yahdhu al-Faqih. They would not have heard of Al-Istibsar. They would not have heard of Basair al-Darajat, Al-Mahasin, Kitab Sulaim, like you mentioned, Kitab
Yeah, yeah.
al-Ghaiba, Kamaluddin wa Tamam al-Ni'ma. There are so many ahadith books that we
Bihar
have from
al-Anwar as well.
classical period. Bihar al-Anwar, of course, Bihar al-Anwar is, yeah, I've got it obviously behind me. Bihar al-Anwar, of course, is a secondary source, like maybe 500 or so years old. But my main focus was with regards to the oldest and most
Mm.
classical books. And I wanted to make sure that people know that our beliefs with regards to theological beliefs that we believe about the Imams, for example, what we believe about them, their wilaya takwiniya, the ilmul ghaib, things like this, yeah, can we by the Imams, yeah, all of these kinds of questions, people they come up with them, and there's a problem these days in our communities where people are growing up and they think that these things are cultural. They think that there is no religious basis for some of these beliefs. So I wanted to take these beliefs and show that they are all present in our classical books and in the Quran. So before Jum'ah nights even started, what's really funny is that I actually started to record a series in my room, yeah, about a Shahadat al-Thalitha, the third testimony. And I started recording it. I tried to sort out the lighting. I had no money at this point to for the show or anything, but I just got together what I could. Phone camera, bought a mic, and I would sit in my room with the books and I would start giving like, explanations with regards to theology. I was like, I think I recorded like 5 or 6 episodes and I'd edited them, and there was only 3 or 4 episodes left. And at that point, Ahmed Gokul, he added me to a group chat and he said to me that, we have an idea to start a new show on After
Mm.
Maghrib with regards to theology and da da da, and we want to call it like, Jum'ah nights. How
Uh,
do you feel? Do you want to do it? I was like, bro, you know what? It's like I believe that there's tawfiq, when you start to try and do something, Allah shows you like a better way that you can do it. Because I was gonna do it in my room, I was gonna kind of upload it to my own YouTube channel. Maybe I don't know, maybe 10 people would watch it, or maybe 15 people would watch it, right? But in comparison to have a platform like After Maghrib, to be able to have the support of Ahl Bayt TV also, and all of these kinds of platforms, it really gave me a platform to be able to do what I wanted to do already. So yeah, I'm really grateful to the After Maghrib team. But with regards to the idea, I think it was just like, the situation of the Shia youth
mm.
in terms of the base knowledge that a normal Shia youth would have. I felt like it was not enough towards the Shia literature. I feel like Shia literature is very, very important. We say in Ziyarat Jami' al-Kabira with regards to the words of Imam, we say kalamukum nur, that your words, they are light. They should be the things to guide us, right? The Imam al-Baqir says, لو علم الناس محاسن كلامنا لاتبعونا. Yeah, the Imam said, if the people were to know about the beauty of our sayings, they would have followed us. So the first duty of the Shia is to know the words of the Imams alayhi salam first, and be able to spread the words of the Imams, because that's the best way to bring people towards Shi'ism, in my understanding, rather than learning a lot about Sunni
Yeah.
books and then going and arguing with Sunnis. That's not how the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam kind of wanted the outlook on religion to be. They wanted us to understand their knowledge and show why the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam is greater. And you can only show that once you know the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt.
Yeah.
So that was why I thought it was very, very important to make a show that was focused on Shia literature and the Quran.
Okay, just as you mentioned about the theology and the books, so as you have come across so many books, which is a book which draws your attention much more, like a personal favorite?
Personal favorite. I think that's very hard. I think I'm gonna cop out and say the easy answer, which is Al-Kafi. I think Al-Kafi is the most genuinely it's the most amazing book that we have in our Shia literature. And the reason for that is that it has everything in it. It has the aqaid in it in the Usul al-Kafi, yeah, the first and second volumes. And the first and second volumes, to me, they're like the gold mine of al-Kafi. Like they are like the treasure of Al-Kafi is in volume one and volume two. Then you have fiqh as well. You have until from the third volume until the seventh volume. And then you have Rawdatul Kafi, right? So it has everything in it. It has aqaid, it has fiqh, and it has the Rawdatul Kafi is like how to develop your kind of worldview about the religion, about the world, a philosophical worldview. So Al-Kafi to me holds everything within it. And what's amazing about Al-Kafi is that the structure of Al-Kafi is in such a way that if you open any chapter, right, for example, you'll see the chapter heading, for example, it will say, I don't know, about Tawheed, for example, yeah, the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It will have maybe seven or eight ahadith. Once you read the first hadith, maybe you have a question about that first hadith. You'll write down your question. And then by magic, you read the second hadith, it answers the question that you had. You see, the way that it's been structured
Yeah.
is like that, so that it gives you a full picture in a chapter. Any question that you have, or any kind of problem that you have with any understanding, it's answered within the same chapter. And Sheikh al-Kulaini, he did that without speaking. He did that through the hadith.
Mm.
Does that make sense? Like that's
Yeah,
very hard skill, yeah, to be able to explain my views and give an explanation and to order it in the way that it gives a clear message. Sheikh al-Kulaini was doing that in perfection. Yeah. Another book I think that does this very well is Sheikh al-Nu'mani's book, Al-Ghaiba. Yeah, I have it just here as well. It's a very small book, but it's about the Ghaiba of Imam Sahib al-Zaman. He has this same skill of being able to explain concepts through the hadith without having to say anything. Very few times you'll see in Al-Kafi that Sheikh al-Kulaini himself, he's giving his commentary. He is speaking himself. Very few. Sheikh al-Nu'mani is the same. Their style is to speak through the hadith. And this is like the essence of a muhaddith and the beauty of the muhaddithin that we had in the classical period. So Al-Kafi for me is, I think, is the is my personal favorite. And I would also recommend any Shi'i that is trying to get into literature, Al-Kafi is a very good place to start.
okay, so and that, mashallah, Ahsan, that's a really nice piece of advice. And I wanted to ask you about Kitab Salam ibn Qais. So Kitab Salam ibn Qais, when I took a look at your video and then when I searched it up actually, and I read the book, like just the first page itself had some hadith, which blew my mind, to be honest. I was like, this book has a lot of theology into it, which how do I not know
Yeah,
about this?
yeah,
And so
yeah,
like when
yeah.
you came across that book and when you first looked at the book, so like what was your reaction? And then how did you come across it,
Yeah, so how did I come across Kitab Sulaim specifically? Kitab Sulaim is a book that is quite contentious and quite controversial. We find that with regards to, for example, some of the events that led to the martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra, um, some of these events are most detailed in Kitab Sulaim ibn Qais al-Hilali. So a lot of the time, when the discussion of the martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima comes up, it is this book that gets referred to, Kitab Sulaim, because it has the most detail with regards to the events that led up to it. So I guess I could say that this was the way through which I found out about the book. Because if you were to research about the martyrdom of Sayyidah Fatima Zahra, you always see that this book is being discussed. Yeah, Kitab Sulaim, and whether it is an authentic book, whether it is something that is accepted or not. So that was kind of the first time that I came across it, maybe at the age of like 13 or 14, right? And I'm actually 26 right now. Yeah. So at that time, I think the the main kind of discussion in my mind, because I was a very polemical individual, right? My focus at that time was arguments, right? So if, for example, there is another Shia that doesn't agree with the events of Kitab Sulaim or what is mentioned in Kitab Sulaim, I was just reading Kitab Sulaim to understand how I can respond
Mm.
to those individuals. So that was my initial kind of being introduced to Kitab Sulaim. Then, maybe in a few years after, I was reading and trying to research about governance in Islam, right? Leadership in Islam, how is a government? How did Imam Ali think that Islamic government should be, so on and so forth. And that was the second time that I came across Kitab Sulaim, because Kitab Sulaim has many, many narrations about governance. How does the Imam
Mm.
expect a government to be? That kind of thing. And that started to change my outlook on Kitab Sulaim. I realized that this book is not just a book about the tragedies and the martyrdoms of Ahlul Bayt. It's actually a book that has a lot of other topics in it. And that was when I started to read it for myself, the whole thing, cover to cover. And that was maybe 17 to 18 years old. And what I realized was that at this point, I think I'd read Al-Kafi completely when I was like 16,
Oh,
and other
mashallah.
books like Basair al-Darajat and stuff. So what I started to notice was that Kitab Sulaim, in terms of the events that it had within the book, there was nothing that was different to any other Shia book. I felt like the content that was in it is all stuff either that we already know as Shia, we hear in Majalis, or we hear growing up, or we're taught in Madrasa, or it is stuff that is corroborated in other books of Hadith. For example, you'll find the same kind of narrative or something in Al-Kafi or in Sheikh Saduq's books, for example. It was all kind of similar. Then I realized that, you know what, Kitab Sulaim is a book that it encompasses theology, it encompasses socio-political topics. It encompasses history. It encompasses our understanding about the martyrdom of Ahlul Bayt. It encompasses so many different things, and it is the oldest and most kind of oldest book that we can say that this was the first Shia book that was written in history from a perspective of a Shia. Yeah, so that to me it really kind of increased the value of Kitab Sulaim in my life, because I understood that there's so much that we can actually take from these ahadith and these things that are mentioned in Kitab Sulaim, more than just the history and arguing with other people. And I think that's the most important thing. With hadith books, all of the hadith books, there should be an understanding that we're not using these to argue.
Yeah.
There is actually beauty in these ahadith. There is a lot that I can take away personally and learn from these ahadith books, and that should be the outlook when we're looking at them, not to just argue with other people the same way that I had that mentality when I was 13 to 14, where I wanted to just argue, right? But understanding the hadith books for what they are and trying to take beauty from them, that's where the actual you'll feel the sweetness of the hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam.
MashaAllah, Ahsan Sheikh. Dude, as we like talk about these books and Jummah nights. So as we have seen Jummah nights, okay? So it's often you and the books. But in the last few
Yeah,
episodes, we have seen that you call some Shia personalities. So
yeah.
if I give you a choice, okay, and you could have any two Shia personalities in front of you, and when I say that, I don't mean the Ahlul Bayt al-Islam, because that's an easy way out. But then, yeah,
Yeah.
two Shia personalities who are in the service of Ahlul Bayt al-Islam. So who would that be?
So in history, ever,
No, in the current generation, I would say.
or in the current generation. Okay, okay. In the current generation, that's a very interesting question. I haven't thought about that, to be honest. I would say maybe I would think about having somebody like, so Ayatollah Sheikh Mohammed al is a scholar that I respect a lot. He's also got a lot of work that he's done on Ghulu and Raj'a. And I know you did, obviously, you've done a podcast with Sheikh Baqir Najad with regards to the topic of Raj'a. And these topics are some topics that are not really explored too much in the time today, yeah, with specifically Raja, because Raja is a very complex topic. So someone like Sheikh Mohammed Sanad, he would be, I think, great to be able to discuss because I know that he has a lot of kind of understanding with regards to the hadith, and he's also written some books with regards to ghulu and raja. So I think he would be like a perfect kind of guest for something like Jum'ah night, where like he would be able to give us a lot more depth with regards to the understanding of a hadith, and like the depth of these kind of literature, and all of the things that he has kind of used to build his worldview with regards to ghulu and raja. So Sheikh Sanad, I think, is one of the big ones. Obviously, he's a marja, he's Bahraini, he's been one of the teachers in the holy city of Najaf for a number of years. He's very very well established and very very well respected in the house of Najaf. So that would be the first individual probably. Another individual that I would like to bring, um, I really like Sayyid uh, Mehdi Mir Bakri. Now the thing is, Sayyid Mehdi Mir Bakri, he's a Farsi speaker. So
Okay.
my Farsi is not like amazing. It's like maybe I can understand like maybe 50%. I've been learning Farsi for like a year and a half now. It hasn't been going amazing, but Alhamdulillah, I've learned as much as I can. So Sayyid Mir Bakri, he's somebody that really interests me. He's also somebody that has a lot of enthusiasm for literature like Ziyarat Jami' al-Kabira. Yeah. And I remember one of the things that he said in the one of his lectures, he said that you'll never understand the aqidah of the Shia until you study this Ziyarat Jami' al-Kabira. And Ziyarat Jami' al-Kabira is literally, if I can just give some little history with regards to it, one of
Sure,
the
sure.
companions, he went to Imam al-Hadi alayhi salatu wasalam, and he asked him, he said, what is the best ziyarah that I can recite for any ma'soom, and something that is the most al-qawl al-baligh al-kamil, right? Something that is very eloquent and is complete in all of its meanings. So Imam al-Hadi, he said to him, I'm going to teach you a ziyarah, and this ziyarah you can recite for any of the ma'sumin, and it is al-qawl al-baligh al-kamil. It is the most complete, most eloquent bit of speech, basically. And he taught this ziyarah, Ziyaratul Jamia al-Kabira. And in this ziyarah, it has so many maqamat of the Ahlul Bayt, the understanding of the rank of Ahlul Bayt, the status of Ahlul Bayt, what is their kind of, rank with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is our relationship with them and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of these kinds of topics with regards to raj'ah, with regards to every kind of thing you can find in theology is addressed within Ziyad Jami' al-Kabira. Yeah, so it's one of those ziyarat which is gold. And Sayyid Mir Bakri, he's somebody that really, really emphasizes on this ziyarah. And he has full lectures where he will spend an hour, he will just discuss maybe 5, 6 lines of Ziyad Jami'. And Ziyad
Right.
Jami' is a long ziyarah. If you read the whole thing, it's like 30, 40 minutes. So this guy, he'll spend like an hour speaking about just 4 or 5 lines, and giving the depth and the understanding of it. So Sayyid Mir Bakri, he's definitely somebody. So that's my two individuals, I think, Sheikh Sanad and Sayyid Mir Bakri. But
Okay, mashallah.
I would struggle, I guess, to talk to both of them. Sheikh Sanad, as far as I know, though, he lived in the UK for quite a while, which is
Okay, nice.
strange for Maraji, but he actually did live in the UK. I think he studied in the UK as well. So I would hope that he speaks a little bit of English so that we could kind of, be comfortable. But if it came down to it, I think I could do it in Arabic with Sheikh Sanad. But Sayyid Mir Bakri, I definitely would not be able to do it in Farsi. But yeah,
Okay,
inshallah.
just as you were talking about the companions, the story you narrated. So this is a question I ask for every single person I meet, or any scholar I'm talking to, or any just personality. Amir al-Mu'mineen al-Islam, he has so many companions, great companions, Salman al-Farsi, Malik al-Ashtar, Abu Zar, etc. The list goes on, Habibi. So
Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
one of them is your favorite?
My favorite is it's very hard to say. I think when you look at the companions of Amir al-Mu'mineen, some of them they are so praised in the hadith that it makes you genuinely like you're confused. You're like the level of praise for this companion and the rank that he has with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you realize, like for example, the status of someone like Salman al-Farisi or Salman al-Muhammadi, it genuinely it's mind-boggling. It makes you think that this individual, he's that high. How must Amir Mu'mineen be if this individual, his rank is so high, you know? So I think in terms of a favorite, it's very hard to say, man, because all of them, they have such characteristics that are so like when you think about Abu Dhar, the truthfulness and the straightforwardness and the bravery of Abu Dhar, that's something I think all of us we aspire to have. Like, the bravery of Abu Dhar. Now, the Iman of Salman, right? You have, like, for example, Malik al-Ashtar, right? The support that he gave to Amir al-Mu'mineen, to the extent that Amir al-Mu'mineen, he says about Malik al-Ashtar, and this
Yeah, yeah.
sentence is something that makes your hairs stand up on your skin. He says about Malik al-Ashtar, Amir al-Mu'mineen said, كان لي كما كنت لرسول الله. He says that Malik al-Ashtar was for me what I was for Rasulullah.
So,
That it makes your hair stand up. What do you mean? Like, what you are to Rasulullah, what Amir al-Mu'mineen was to Rasulullah, his backbone, his support, all of those things, he said that Malik al-Ashtar was that for me. Now that is like, it's mind-boggling. But I think when you look at like, when I look personally, and in terms of the narrations that I've read, I think Salman al-Farsi is somebody that I think he holds, first of all, I think he holds the highest rank from the companions of the Ahlul Bayt. And also, if you were to read, like, for example, so we have Rijal al-Kashi. Rijal al-Kashi is one of our classical books of hadith. And it kind of is a book of Rijal, or it's a book of hadith slash Rijal. So how it works is that there is an entry for different companions that lived at the time of the Imams. And he writes an entry for example, Salman al-Farisi. You'll have an entry and you'll have maybe 6 or 7 hadith about Salman, for example, or with that Salman narrated, or that Salman was present in, something like that. So that's how Rijal Kashi is. If you read the narrations of Rijal Kashi and the status of Salman, it is mind-boggling. For me, I was reading it and it mentioned, for example, and this also has connection to some other narration. So, for example, the narrations of the faqih of Ahlul Bayt, the Imams say that we do not consider anyone to be a faqih, yeah, حتى يكون محدثا, until he is divinely inspired,
mm,
right? Until, for example, he is divinely muhaddath. Usually, people they use it for when an angel speaks to them, for example. So you could say, like, for example, the prophets, the angels speak to them. Say that Maryam was not a prophet, but the angel spoke to her, for example. These individuals are muhaddath. Yeah, they
yeah.
have divine inspiration. They get the information through an angel, through a divine kind of inspiration. So this narration, it says that we don't consider anyone to be a faqih hatta yakun muhaddathan, until he is divinely inspired. So the Imam is asked, oh, يكون المؤمن محدثا, can it be that just a normal mu'min, he is divinely inspired? The Imam says يكون مفهما والمفهم محدث. He says that he will be made to understand, and the one who is made to understand, he is divinely inspired. So when you look at the narrations about Salman, the narrations say that Salman was muhaddath. He was divinely inspired. He used to divinely get kind of like inspiration, right? Some of the other narrations in Rijal al-Kashi, because obviously this brings a lot of questions. You would say, what Salman, was he able to see angels and stuff like that? So that's a question mark.
But
So some
there's
of the
also
other
another
narrations
hadith,
in
right,
Rijal
where
al-Kashi,
there's also another hadith where it gives level. Imam Ali al-Islam narrates it, where it gives levels to the companions, and
levels
it
of,
says
yeah,
that
exactly.
Salman al-Farsi was in the 10th level, the highest
Or the
level.
10th level, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And Abu Dhar was on the ninth, but in the end of, obviously,
and
Abu
Miqdad
Dhar
was in
reached
the
the
8th.
10th as well. Miqdad, exactly, exactly. So you see this level of understanding with Salman, and the narrations they mentioned that he was muhaddath min qibal al-imam. So Salman, he had such a special relationship with the Imam of his time, Imam Ali alayhi salam, that it is possible that Salman can be, for example, in Madian, right? In somewhere far in Iraq. And Imam Ali alayhi salam could be, I don't know, in Kufa, for example, right? And even then, he would be able to communicate with him. He would be able to have that connection with the Imam of his time. And I think that it's from these kinds of connections and relationships that people like us need to take a lot of inspiration from, especially because we live in the time of ghaiba. Living in the time of ghaiba and not having the Imam there, a lot of the time we feel like that means now I can't connect to the Imam. I can't speak to the Imam. I can't communicate with the Imam. Here, the narration is saying Salman was muhaddath min qabl al-Imam. He was somebody that used to receive divine inspiration through the kind of, the inspiration of Amir al-Mu'mineen that was ghaibi, unseen, right? It's not necessary that Imam Ali says to him with his mouth. Imam Ali can help Salman understand without speaking, using ghaibi methods, right? So that is a possibility for all of us, right? That is a possibility for all of us with the Imam of our time. And we see this narration in Kamaluddin wa Tamam al-Ni'mah that with regards to the people that have uqul and ma'rifah, right? That wal afham wal ma'rifah, right? It says that the people that they have intellects, they have understanding, they have ma'rifah, that the ghaiba to them is like it's like even though the Imam is in ghaiba, it's like they are with the Imam. You see, so this understanding we can get it truly from these companions like Salman al-Farisi. Salman al-Farisi is somebody genuinely that I personally I look up to a lot because you can see that not only was he like a very close to the Imams, but he was also strategic. He used to play things very strategically in the different times of the Khulafa, the first three Khulafa. He was a very kind of beneficial and useful individual to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam as well, right? So you can see that he had the brain and the strategy as well to be able to maneuver different situations. So somebody like him, I think he's definitely my favorite and one of my biggest inspirations. But also, I think a close second for me, yeah, and I'm sorry to go on a bit, but the a close second for me is Maytham Tamar. Because Maytham Tamar, for me, I think he's an individual that is so misunderstood at his time. He looks like if you were to see him in the street, you'd think this guy's crazy. This guy, he's lost the plot. But someone like Maytham, like he'd reached such a level that he had ilmul manai wal balaya. He could understand from looking at somebody when they're going to die, how they're going to die. This knowledge that he had from Amir Mu'mineen, and he was a tamar. He was somebody that used to sell dates. Yeah, someone that is so like, a normal average job in the community. And with the inspiration from Amir Mu'mineen, with belief in Amir Mu'mineen, he was able to reach such a high level of knowledge. Someone like him definitely also is a huge inspiration because in our time as well, there's a lot of times where we may feel like we're misunderstood, right? And Maytham Tamar, despite being Maytham Tamar, he took solace and he took a lot of comfort in that he had closeness and a good relationship with Amir al-Mu'mineen. He didn't care about the relationships he had with anybody else. He just cared that he was close to Amir al-Mu'mineen and that the Imam was happy with him. So these were my two kind of favorites. You could say Salman al-Farsi and Maytham Tamar that I
Yeah.
really relate to myself.
Just as you mentioned, Misam Thamar, another thing about him, Imam Ali al-Islam used to come at his shop at times and then, would stay at his place and then would take care of his shop as well. And, that's like
Yeah,
such a big thing. And then,
yeah,
especially Habib, when you're mentioning all of this and the smile you have on your face, it shows how
yeah,
much
yeah,
you
yeah,
have the love you have for them. Um,
yeah.
I would like to head towards Karbala now. Karbala is such a important thing for us. So like I would like to start by asking you when you think about Karbala, okay, when you hear Karbala for the first time, so what's the thing which comes in your mind? What's the biggest thing you learned from Karbala?
The biggest thing I learned from Karbala, I think Karbala is always a message of sacrifice for me, right? When I think about Karbala, Karbala is representative for me of the struggle and the battle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness. Now, the battle between the forces of light and the forces of darkness is such a battle that it transcends time and place. When you think about Karbala, Karbala is not just an event that happened in history. Karbala is an event that is always relevant in person, in every person's life, in the world today, on every layer, Karbala is there. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that when you think about this call of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam on Karbala, and this is when you say Karbala, this is what comes to my mind straight away. What comes to my mind is Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam saying, "Hal min nasirin yansurun?" Is there any helper that can help us? Right? So when we think about this call of Imam Hussein, there's so many different ways in which this can be answered, this call, right? Because a lot of the time people think about this militarily. They think about it as something that, you have to get up and you have to fight, right? But it captures so many more dimensions than that alone. It captures the philosophical dimension. It captures the social dimension. All of these things are aspects in which there is a battle between light and darkness. And for me, Karbala represents all of those kind of different aspects. And all of those different aspects are the things in which you can be a Nasir to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, even through your kind of social um kind of efforts, your efforts to be able to revive the theology of Ahlul Bayt, your efforts to revive the fiqh of Ahlul Bayt. All of these things are a struggle that are actually granting Nusra to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So for me, I think Karbala has to be a philosophy that we live by, right? And there's a lot of times where you can feel yourself struggling, right? So I don't know how it is for yourself, but like for example, for myself, I was doing Jum'ah nights, right? As a podcast. Jum'ah nights was a podcast that Alhamdulillah, it was a very good bit of service that I could do, but it also used to take time, right? It takes time out of my family time. I have to work around my work schedule. I have to work around my family. All of these kinds of things were obstacles as well in being able to present the podcast. But at those moments, you feel like, you know what? Why am I doing the podcast? You feel like, you know what, I can give more time to my work. I can give more time to my family. But it's at that point that you understand that this is sacrifice. This is your jihad. Like this is your kind of your struggle that you have to be able to serve whatever it takes. You need to make sure that you focus on your work as well, focus on your family time, and also focus on this. This is also a priority, right? Because being able to put out the theology of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and stuff, that in itself is a struggle. That in itself, there's a battlefield of theology, right? There are so many different groups nowadays, different deviant groups, and different people saying different things, right? It is at this point that it is a responsibility of anybody that can to make sure that the Ahlul Bayt's words are on top. There's nothing on top of the words of the Ahlul Bayt. So that in itself is a struggle and a jihad. So that's my kind of understanding of Karbala, because in those moments when I feel like I can no longer, afford or have the time to do this service. When you think back to the sacrifice of Baba Abdullah al Hussein, all of your problems they look like, you've got nothing wrong with your life. You've got all the time in the world. You've got everything to give to this cause and to the cause of Imam al Hussein alayhi salam. So that's my kind of understanding of Karbala, that it inspires me. It gives me the energy when I'm like, you could say, like a phone, yeah, running out of charge. When I'm on like 3%, yeah, my charging is the azat of Imam Hussein. Thinking about Karbala, that takes me back to 100 for another year until I need to go back to charge the, you know. So that's my kind of understanding of Karbala. How about yourself?
Yeah, Karbala, Habibi, I'm telling you, this year, Alhamdulillah, I had the chance to visit during Arba'een, as I previously mentioned to you. I'm telling you, I was so tired and everything, but then the first glance I had on the shrine, the glance you have at the shrine, it makes everything go away, and
It's
then,
magical.
yeah, it's just magical,
Did
yeah.
you
And then
did you
when you
do
visit
did
the,
you do the walk?
no, I couldn't do the work this year, inshallah, till next year,
Okay,
Habib. Yeah.
inshallah.
So, inshallah. So when you go inside the shrine, and then I want to tell you, me, when I go to the shrine of the Haram of Mala Abbas, I feel that there's someone for me. There's like someone who's elder to me, someone who has his presence over me. I can honestly tell him anything. I can tell him all my problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, me like every day I would visit his shrine 2 to 3 times, like anyhow. And then I would go, I would do the ziyarah, I would sit there, and it would be so peaceful to me, honestly. And then, a thing I would like to talk about, honestly, is the relation Imam Hussein alayhi salam had with Mullah Abbas alayhi salam. This is a thing, whenever I think about this thing, I have another relation in my mind. The relation Imam Ali alayhi salam had with Rasulullah. So there are so many similarities,
Ahsant.
Habibi. There are so many
Yeah.
similarities. With Rasulullah, like when Imam Ali alayhi salam was born, he hadn't opened his eyes until Rasulullah came and took him in his arms. And it was the same exact
Mm.
thing with Abu Abdullah alayhi salam and Abu al-Fazl Abbas alayhi salam. And the Rasulullah had given the azan and ikama in the years of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And
Come
exactly
on, yeah.
same thing with Abu
Yeah.
Abdullah alayhi salam and Abu al-Fazl Abbas. And then Imam Ali alayhi salam had, stuck the Rasulullah's tongue for the moisture and the, nutritious value. And it was the same exact thing with both of them as well. And then the role they
Yeah.
played, Abu al-Fazl Abbas alayhi salam was the protector, the back
Yeah.
of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And the same exact thing with Rasulullah and Imam Ali alayhi salam. And Imam Ali alayhi salam himself said that, "Oh Abbas, you are my son, and Hassan and Hussein are the son of Rasulullah," which
Mm.
itself shows that Abbas plays the role of Imam Ali in Hussein's life. So like,
Mm.
just like Rasulullah had Imam Ali alayhi salam, the same exact way Imam
Imam
Hussein
Hussein
had Mullah
had that.
Abbas.
This
Yeah.
is something that is even Quranic, right? When we look at والشمس وضحاها والقمر إذا تلاها, right? You see how it mentions the sun and its dawn, its brightness, and then it says والقمر إذا تلاها, and the moon when it follows it. Yeah, when you look at the kind of the riwayat with regards to this ayat of the Quran, the tafsir of it shows that in the time of Rasulullah, the Shams, yeah, the sun is Rasulullah, and the Qamar is Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Yeah, because he follows Rasulullah. Every step that Rasulullah used to take in the sand, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he makes the same steps in the sand. He mentions that in one of his own ahadith. Now, when you look at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, we know in the narrations that the Imam, the Hujjah of Allah upon earth, is the Shams. Yeah, many of the narrations they mention that. There's a very long narration in Al-Kafi in volume 8 speaking about the characteristics of the Imam. It mentions that the Imam is the sun, the brightly shining sun. And then it mentions wal qamari idha talaha. And here, this is the title that I believe is Al Abbas's title, Qamaru Bani Hashim. When you understand the understanding of the moon of Banu Hashim, he's the moon because he follows the Shams in its complete form. And on top of that, there's also another Quranic indicator. Why, when you see, for example, in the event of Mubahila,
Mm.
it says وَأَنفُسَنَا وَأَنفُسَكُمْ, right? Ourselves and yourselves. And in the ayah of the Quran, the nafs of Rasulullah is Amir al-Mu'mineen. Yeah? On the day of Ashura, when Al-Abbas, he is mounting his horse, Imam Hussein says to him, Irkab binafs ant. He says, mount onto your horse, may my soul be sacrificed for you. Imam al-Hussein is saying, may my soul be sacrificed for you. Irkab binafsi ant. And what we understand from the other narrations of Ahlul Bayt, for example, there's narration of Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. Imam al-Rida, one of the companions, he goes to him and he says to Imam al-Rida, he says, Ya Imam, what is my position in your heart? Your Imam al-Rida, I'm one of your Shia. What is my position in your heart? Imam al-Rida responds to him and he says, whatever my position is in your heart, know that you have the same position in my heart. Yeah, this is a principle. So imagine if Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he's saying, Irkab binafsi ant. He's saying, ride out and may my soul be sacrificed for you. That is the level of Al-Abbas in the soul of Imam al-Hussein. So the soul of Al-Abbas also has the same reverence for Imam al-Hussein. So what does that show you? It shows you that it's one soul. It shows you that it's one nafs. So the nafs of Imam al-Hussein is Al-Abbas, and the nafs of Rasulullah is Imam Ali alayhi salam. So you
Yeah.
see that this connection is truly it's beautiful, and you see it in the Quran, you see it in the Hadith, and you see it in the actions of Al Abbas towards Imam Al Hussein, and the same symmetry that you mentioned with regards to their birth, with regards to the events of their birth, with regards to Iqama, Adhan, how they used to be as children, how he would follow the footsteps of Rasulullah, Imam Al Abbas doing the same for Imam Hussein. All of these things, it builds you an amazing structure and relationship. And this is something that I really love as well. And when you're going back to the ziyarah of Arba'in, when I went in 2022, we did the walk, Alhamdulillah. And as we were coming up to Karbala, the first Quba that you see, the first dome you see, is not of Imam al Hussein. You
Al
see
Abbas.
Hazrat Abbas's dome first. And a lot of the ulama, actually, some of the contemporary ulama, what they say is that it is from etiquette, it is from adab to actually go and do the ziyarah of Al Abbas first, and then go to do the ziyarah of Imam al
Yeah, and I
Hussein.
think there's a hadith also where Imam Hussein says that before me, go to the ziyarah of Abul Fazl Abbas.
Okay, okay, yeah, I haven't come across a hadith in that manner, but also I've seen many of the scholars recommend this, and the reason that they give is that they say that Al Abbas, he's the bab, he's the gate towards Imam Hussein. So when you enter, the same way that Imam Ali alayhi salam is the bab of the Madinatul Ilm and Rasulullah is Madinatul Ilm, Al Abbas is the bab to Imam Al Hussein. So it's adab that you go through the bab and then you go to the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. You see the parallel as well with,
Yeah.
for example, say the Ma'sum and Imam al-Rida alayhi salam. It's the same kind of thing that you should go to do the ziyarah in Qum first and then in Mashhad. So this kind of adab is also very, very interesting. And it's like you said as well, when you go to Al-Abbas, I think the feeling is one of comfort, because you know that the level, the loyalty that this man represents is a loyalty towards the Imam of his time, forward to all of the Shia. When you go there, you feel safe. You feel like this individual, like he's there to respond to everything that I want from him, yeah, and to give me something that is priceless. That's genuinely how it feels. Because when I went as well, um, unfortunately, so that there's the darih on the main floor of
Yeah.
the shrine. For Al Abbas's shrine, I was actually able to touch the darih,
Okay,
yeah,
mashallah.
during Arba'in. For Imam Al Hussein, I wasn't able to in on the main floor. Um, Obviously after I went downstairs and there is the shabak, there's the
Yeah, yeah.
thing for the grave of Imam Hussein, I was able to make my dua there properly as well and hold on to the darih or whatever. But on the main floor, I was able to touch Hazrat Abbas, and that too with the help of somebody. Yeah, it was really interesting because I was reaching out and there was a brother that was right holding on to the darih of Al Abbas, and he saw my hand, and he literally grabbed my hand and he just pulled me towards the darih. So it was like, to me, that kind of act of kindness from that brother as well, it represented to me the kindness of Abul Fadl, because it was that support that I needed in order to reach Al Abbas, and I felt like he was calling me. He wanted for me to be able to hold the Zarih and speak to him personally. So that was an amazing experience. And yeah, the relationship between these two is truly astounding.
Yeah, that was a beautiful, your experience was really beautiful, Habibi. Like, they're helping you, and actually, they help you a lot. There are different types of people, bro. Some may help you,
Yeah,
some may actually push you away. So, yeah,
yeah, yeah. You
yes,
you can imagine that individual. He helped me. I'm sure he doesn't remember.
yeah.
I'm sure if you found him today, some random brother, if you found him today, he will not remember that someone to touch the Dari. But I will never forget it because he helps me touch the Dari. I'll never forget it. And that is the thing that is crazy, because honestly, I remember that person. I'm like, you know what, Alhamdulillah, he helped me to reach the Dari. So that was very important to me. And a beautiful
During
experience.
Arba'in, so like when I remember during Arba'in, I was, trying to get the zari, and I was trying to do the ziyarah with my hands, and suddenly I would be really close, and then a group of people would come, I would be all
Yeah,
back
push
again.
you out. Yeah, that happens all the time. I felt like that happened to me like 3 times, and Imam Al Hussein. It's literally like You see the distance that I am right now from the camera, that was the distance, and then
Yeah.
I get pushed. It was crazy. Yeah.
You know,
But yeah.
Shay, Habibi, thank you so much, for your time and everything. This was a really beautiful session. And the relations we
Jazakallah
talked about
khair,
Imam Abbas and Imam Hussein alayhi salam and our experiences. Habibi, thank you so much for your time.
Habibi, honored to be with you. Honestly, I've really enjoyed this conversation as well. Obviously coming into it, I didn't know what to expect, but honestly, as soon as I got on the call with you, I felt so comfortable. I felt like I know you for many, many years. So Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah khair and Jazak.
Thank you
It's an
so
honor
much.
to have spoken with you.
Yeah.
And inshallah, I
Um,
hope that in the future we're able to work together as well and to serve the Imam of our time, inshallah, and to remember the azat of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, to build a connection with Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, to build a connection with the hadith of Al Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and to serve the Imam of our time, Ajlallah ta'ala Fajr Shaykh.
Thank you so much, brother. Any final advice for the young generation out there? How, yeah.
Final advice for the youngsters and those people that are looking into religion is the advice of the Imams themselves, which is that you should tafaqahu fi din. You should search knowledge in the religion, and I give this advice to myself before I give it to anybody else. The Imams, they were very, very strict about this. They were mentioning بادروا أولادكم بالحديث قبل ما يسبقكم إليهم المرجع. That make sure that your children they know the hadith of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam before other deviant ideologies can take them away. تفقه في الدين, that if you should search for knowledge in the religion. If I was to see a youth from the Shia that was not seeking knowledge, I would strike him on the head. That's what Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says. So that is my advice, and truly is not my advice. I can only give the advice of the Imams alayhi salatu wasalam. They are our masters, and they are the individuals that we all aspire to follow their advice, inshallah ta'ala.
Okay, thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much for your time again. May Allah bless you and may Allah increase your levels, inshallah ta'ala. I hope to
Jazakumullah
see
khair,
a lot more of your content, inshallah ta'ala, in the future. Thank you so much again.
inshallah,
May
inshallah.
Allah bless you.
Habibi. جزاكم الله خير الجزاء bro. Take care. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.